Okay, welcome. We are here in the in Hinterconti Art Space in Hamburg, actually, and inside of the exhibition Origem, made by the artist Margem, David Cuesta, and Elena Victoria Pastor. And for the space, just few words. The space existed since more than 20 years, more than 25 years in Hamburg, and we are doing exhibitions. Okay, this time we have real international guests here, but mostly they are, of course, they are from Hamburg and surrounding, and some cities in the south probably. But here, this exhibition today, it is about very short say. It's about the rainforest, the way to look at the phenomenon inside from three artists coming from South America. And the best is I would keep them say some words to their own art they are doing. Refer to David Wester? Yes. Okay.
Hi. Okay. Hi. My name is David. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much, Elena. Elena and I were on a residency last year in Iquitos, and she very kindly invited me to come here to show some of the work that I've been working on. I have collaborators as well. I'll tell you a bit about my background first, and then I'll tell you at the end about my piece. I have it written down, so. My name's David. I grew up between London and Vancouver. My background is Colombian, so my parents are both Colombian. But I grew up outside, not in Colombia. It's always been integral to my art practice. I studied art and design in Vancouver, and I became very interested in performance, conceptualism, and minimalist abstraction. So my work was very minimal at the beginning, but also there was another extreme, which was very performance. I would get other people to perform. For a long time, I made geometric sculptures, drawings, and wall hangings. Over time, I began to see parallels between the forms I was making and pre-Columbian patterns. I was also interested in the repetitive organization found in nature and how this echoed through craft and making. At the same time, I'd been photographing in Latin America, in the jungle and in nature. But they were kind of separate practices, really. So then I started thinking about how I could bring the geometry of the abstraction I was doing and the nature I was doing it together. So I started placing these geometric objects into natural environments. And I was interested in the tension between the constructed, the technology, and an environment which is alive and which you can't really control. So there's been several movies so far. I've collaborated with a musician called Boué, UAH, and we made a film. I was living in Colombia at the time. I've moved back and forth. I mean, I live in UK, but I spent quite a bit of time in Colombia. And when I was there, we shot in nature, and we started putting these forms in nature. And when I came back to London, I built the sculpture, which we had put into the forest. So it's not, these stills are not relevant to what I'm talking about. This is more the work I was making in the Amazon, but I'll get to that in a minute. So with that film I made in Colombia, I started to kind of become really interested in this. And then when I came back to London, this was after the pandemic, I made a film in London where we put we filmed, there's no people in the films. It's very important that there's no people. So I started thinking about these objects that I was putting in the nature as, I call them artifacts. And I see them as objects that come from a very distant future, speculative future. And maybe they house memory or information or knowledge. I compare it to Peruvian knot making. The Incas used to do accounting with knots. So I kind of see it as a similar thing. So they carry memory, information, or knowledge, and I think I wanted to get more information, so I started doing a lot of research into colonialism, foreign intervention in Latin America, expeditions into Central America, you know, like the CIA's involvement in coups in Guatemala and all this kind of stuff, and also like the British involvement in the Amazon. So then I started realizing that the British were really heavily involved in Latin America, which is very strange. When you live in the UK, everybody's like, oh, Latin America, it's jungle, it's exotic. You know, you have this idea of Indiana Jones or Lara Croft going in the jungle. But really, the colonial powers have been in these environments for a long time, extracting resources. So there's this kind of identity of being Latin America in Europe, or Latin American, where it's this kind of this exotic thing, but really, you know, behind the scenes, there's all the gold that came to Spain, ended in, you know, in Britain. So because Spain had to pay off after the war, they had to pay it to the UK. So all the gold in the National Reserve comes from South America, really. Margaret Thatcher signed an agreement when they closed all the coal mines to take all the coal from Colombia, which is still one of the largest producers of coal, coming to England. So there's all these things you start to realize. They built all the boats that took all the rubber out of the Amazon. So I started doing a lot of research into this, and then of course the Roger Casement story, which is about the genocide of 40,000 indigenous people in the Putumayo region in Colombia. And so this really interested me in this kind of what was going on. And so I wanted to go, so I applied for the residency. I went there, and through that, there's always a process when you go somewhere, like you do a lot of research, you go there, and it's not the same that you imagine. And so you really start kind of this relationship with the place that you're in, and it's not really the same thing. So, I mean, when I was there, I filmed. I have collaborators in Colombia, so I brought them to Iquitos, and we filmed in the jungle. We went to the national park, we went upriver, so 2-3 hours on a boat. We stayed in a village for 2 weeks. We filmed, we hiked into the forest. I could say a lot more, but we filmed, and then I brought the footage back, and really took a long time to it was 7 hours of footage. But then really through my drawings and then kind of this research, trying to make these objects which house this kind of history, but maybe I try and think of them as objects that live in peace with nature. So they're, maybe in 10,000 years there's less people, the whole world is more natural, technology is artificial intelligence, it's diluted, distilled into these forms which kind of house this history of violence, house the history of knowledge of nature, of healing, of indigenous knowledge, but all into these kind of simple forms that live in nature peacefully, maybe sustainably. So thank you very much. That's the work. I think we need to maybe see the film. So I made a short excerpt of the film. The work that you're seeing is on the stills is maybe the making of, some of the drawings I did, but I've done a short excerpt. It's not the full film, it's 4 minutes, but we will see now the 1 minute version where you'll see some of the film, not the whole thing. I think possibly the film is not showing.
Sadly, there is a situation with the streaming where I can only show. So basically, yes, I was standing up to check about some things technically, and we are unable to see. Sorry, David. They could not see it, but we will edit this, and then when it's edited, we will add the video and all the footage and the material. Yes, please.
Thank you. Sorry you can't see the film, but it will be edited back in. So the last thing I wanted to say is also thank you very much to the full team who worked on the film. I work with a team in Colombia. The cinematographer is Colombian. I also collaborated with musicians in the UK. So thank you very much to Araldo Bernacchi, who's a very established ambient musician, and also Igor Calavera, who did the drums. So thank you very much to both of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here and for bringing this beautiful work that I was somehow being able to encounter with the process of creation while we were in the residency in Iquitos. Yes, my name is Elena Victoria. Also somehow kind of like organizing the exhibition. I invite David and also Margem to come with their work, to bring their work into this collective exhibition. Thank you, Peter, for hosting us, for giving us the possibility to show. The thing is that last year I did 2 residencies in the Amazonas. One was in Iquitos, in Peru, in May, where we both met, and the other one was in Manaus, in La Verde, where I met Margem. So, briefly about me, I'm an interdisciplinary artist coming from Venezuela, already living like around maybe 8 to 9 years in Hamburg, where I'm based already for quite a while. And my praxis goes from video installation, working with deconstructing the perspective from the Anthropocene through investigating cosmovision from the Amazonias, but also from other ways of understanding how there is a possibility to reconnect or to connect differently to nature. So in a sort of way of speculating through these more than human perspectives. And yes, that's why I went to the Amazonas, and I was very keen to understand something that for me, I call it Amazonian kinship. And what is kinship? Kinship is making familiarities. It's a way we connect to each other and we create a form of relationship. So I wanted to investigate what is this in the Amazonas, because it's quite another understanding or another way of living in the environmental space. By being there, I kind of like not only had the chance to meet a lot of interesting people, also leaders from different communities, I had the chance to meet Mariluz Kanakire, who is the leader of the Kukama people in Iquitos, and they actually make a very important thing that was fighting the legal lawsuit against the state and also the oil companies to make the river a subject of rights. By the time this happened, eventually this went through other places as well. And then I came back. This was in May. I came back and I started to reflect a lot of all the talks and all the encounters that I had. And I realized that for me there was a necessity of having a symbol to put it all together, all these interconnections that happen naturally in the landscape. And I used the symbol of the tree, of the Socratea exorrhiza, which is a palm tree with external roots, where actually grab all this message that I wanted to present. That's why I also not only work with technology, putting some engines in the external roots that are also 3D printed. The thorns are 3D printed, but also I use natural fabric made in the Amazonas that is called yanchama. It's made from the bark of a tree, the oje tree, or it's type of like a ficus tree, and it's used in order to create clothes, for example. So I wanted to have this combination because for me it's about talking how technology and natural elements and cosmovision can go somehow bridging in the possibility of trying as a speculative way to build future possibles where things are more interconnected and not so, let's say, displaced, no? So, yes, I built this tree with support of many people. Oliver Bordam, he was the technical person who actually created the way that the tree can stand itself. The people from San Pauli, Fabulous Lab, helped me to print the thorns. And other friends, like, for example, Carlos Rico helped me to bring the yanchama somehow from Leticia. It's created in Leticia, and then we bought it in Bogota. And the sound piece, I also created a sound piece that it was a collaboration with Adrian Arias Pomonti, a good friend of mine from Venezuela, who is also an experimental musician. And the piece is a creation between all the recordings that I did in Peru and in Brazil. Recordings are with hydrophones and also ambient sound recordings, passing through a modular synthesizer in order to create a 432 frequency ambient piece to have this, let's say, connection within the love vibration, because that's how the communities over there feel that nature has, or that's what I understood and I learned, that they are parents, they are their own relatives. The river could be seen as your mother, as your father. So therefore, you will not damage any of your family members. So that there's this connection. So I thought this sound could also grab this, let's say, sensitive way, no? And then I had also a video drone take by Christian Braga, a very amazing photographer who was with us in Lab Verde. And it's a drone of the tree, which is 36 meter high, and then you can see the Amazonas. So this is a piece that I created, and I would like not to take more time, so Margem can tell us. They work from Manaus. Margem is in Manaus at the moment, and could explain also the meaning and the work on himself.
Hi, do you listen me?
Yes.
Uh, my English is not very good, so ask permission to speak in Portuguese. And thank you very much for this space. And thank you, Renata, for translating for me. É, bom, oi gente, meu nome é Margem.
Pera, fala umas 3 frases e aí você dá tempo para mim, que você não consegue me ver para eu falar para. Então você conta 3 frases.
Beleza.
This is Margem. He lives in Manaus. He's working, and while has the overview of the Amazonia, and he's an visual artist.
Eu nasci aqui em Manaus, mas tive muitas vivências no interior da Amazônia.
Ele nasceu em he born in Manaus, but he had been a lot of times. He's expend a lot of times of his childhood, not in Manaus, because Manaus is a city. It's understand that, like, and around Manaus you have the forest, so he was kind of live outside of Manaus, like in the forest, how you could say like that, because I don't know the explanation for interior in English. I think it's another concept.
E eu pude, durante a minha infância, viver com comunidades quilombolas, indígenas, comunidades tradicionais.
And this period of his childhood, which he wasn't in Manaus, he was living with quilombolas and with indigenous communities.
E isso me fez crescer olhando a Amazônia mais do que uma floresta, mas entendendo o organismo.
So this living way with the indigenous, with the quilombolas, give him the perspective of Amazonian in another kind of way that we have, like not just as a forest, but an organism with another art of complexities.
E isso hoje me inspira enquanto artista, porque eu comecei a estudar a Amazônia, entender como é que ela foi construída nos últimos anos.
Você pode repetir o começo que eu perdi?
Eu comecei a pesquisar mais sobre a Amazônia, relacionando essa minha experiência e entendendo como é que ela foi construída.
So he could do research about Amazonia as a researcher and connected this perspective of his life, which he has in his childhood in the quilombolas, with his researcher lives. Eu vou comentar. He was also a researcher in the University of Manaus, so he has these 2 perspectives as a researcher from a university, from an academic institution, and his everyday life. Eu fiz aqui link do seu currículo.
Obrigado. E é isso, comecei a estudar antropologia e comecei a desenhar o que muitos pesquisadores já trazem sobre uma Amazônia que foi inventada.
Você começou a desenhar isso?
Através da fotografia.
Ah, tá. So he studied anthropology, and he started to draw or like photographing this Amazonian, which people already know. Pode seguir.
Tá. E comecei a trabalhar com essa perspectiva, com esse fato de que a Amazônia ela foi inventada por muitos naturalistas que visitaram ela durante o século XIX.
So he started working with this perspective that Amazonian was an invention of the naturalist people, like the chronistas, which came to Amazonian and started to draw what they saw and not what exactly was there. So this was the start point of view of him, like how Amazonia was invented.
Então, meu trabalho começa, ele surge, né, ele nasce, começando a contar essa Amazônia mais verdadeira, mais próxima da realidade.
So he works started up there to talking about or to show the Amazonian not like an invention, not invasion, invention, but like what Amazonia really is.
E vocês podem ver aí na galeria essas fotografias, que são de lugares que eu passei.
So in the photos you could see the photos that he took, and the places where he had been.
E nela estão algumas frases, que são frases que vão de encontro ao que já falaram da Amazônia outras vezes.
So in the photos you also have some sentences about what you hear about the Amazonia. Você quer dar algum exemplo?
Muito se fala que a Amazônia é um lugar da biodiversidade e se mostra para o mundo as comunidades, as florestas, os animais, mas as pessoas não aparecem nessas referências.
For example, a lot of it's common to say that Amazonia has a huge biodiversity, that the forest is really rich, but you never see people when we talk about Amazonian.
Então eu trago as palavras nas fotografias como uma tecnologia ancestral da palavra.
So, nossa, esse é um conceito difícil, hein? Como é que eu vou explicar ancestralidade?
Exato.
Eu vou tentar, se você me corrige se você achar que não foi bom. So, his idea is to bring some sentences in the photos and also to remind us the ancestrality inside this space. I don't know how intimate, how is your intimacy with the term ancestralidade? You know this? Ancestralidade, yeah, ancestralidade is a really powerful term that we use in Brazil that connected the Brazilian identity and with our heritage in Africa and from indigenous. So it's really hard to translate it because it's really connected with the history, but also with the knowledge of how it's about our identity. Nós só temos mais 10 minutos, vamos lá.
Então, a minha proposta é trazer a fotografia de uma paisagem, mas com uma intervenção nela. E essa intervenção são as palavras.
So his idea is to not just to show the photos, but also to have an intervention of the words of this people, or his idea about, yes, this ancestrality.
E essas palavras são o que trazem de maneira poética a nossa vivência aqui.
So these words show the poetry of the everyday life of the people which lives in Amazonian.
Eu queria agradecer a Elena, essa amiga que eu conheci no Lab Verde.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you to everybody, to Elena. Obrigada, and thank you, David.
E ao espaço, é muito importante que essas obras daqui, né, circulem em outros lugares.
And thank you so much for to this opening space, because it's really, really, really important that this art could also leave Brazil and to go to everywhere else.
E é isso. Já fico por aqui para a gente falar mais.
So it is it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Yes, I don't know if you have some questions, Peter, you want to ask. We will have maybe like 10 minutes or less, because sadly the YouTube give us only 1 hour. So we will try to be concise. I don't know if you want to have questions, or anybody from the audience would like to ask something to any of us.
Yes. Thank you all for your the description of your work, and you didn't make made a description of your general work. You both you did a good summary of what is happening here. And okay, it's we have probably have some questions before I will probably start this with these what I've seen. Okay, I know your work, Elena, for a longer time. David, not yours. We just talked about before a little, and it's interesting to combine. For me, it was interesting to see the combination of this very technical ideas in compared to the okay, the more or less what we say, the rainforest of Brazil as a term of okay, of kind of romantic view, what probably in Western world would be, and it is okay in several ways of seeing of the three artists here. We see it's just we have to see that it is not the only way to look at it, and that's not the worst way to look at it, as a romantic view only. And this kind of technique. How you feel, probably David? How you feel with this combination of the picture of the rainforest with the music and the digital terms a bit in time?
Thank you. So I think it's really interesting to see the three different art pieces together, because Elena's interpretation feels very different from what she was doing during the residency. Also, the work, you may have seen the image of the sculpture I made. I made it in collaboration with a person in the Amazon, and it was very organic. So my approach when I came back to UK was very maybe digital. So I think it's interesting to see these three approaches. You touched upon it, this idea that there's different ways of interpreting this landscape. Whereas Margem's work is very conceptual, you know. It's more about the words and this idea, this amazing idea, the Amazonia was planted. I mean, this was like, just hearing this concept was like, whoa, okay, this is really, really interesting idea. They're all speculative in a way. But really, I tried to juxtapose this artificial, and then also I have the prints or even sculptures which I make, which are like the real object next to this mediated, there's a media, you know. But I think looking at Elena's work is also quite interesting. So maybe that answers your question. For example, there's no green in Elena's work. I mean, maybe the Yanchama is organic, but it's all very like silver and digital. Not digital, like maybe industrial. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so kind of industrial. Just thank for your words. It's just industrial behalf, and it is okay. We talked about your digital. What the energy of digital energy. Well, it is about the cost for the rainforest, of course, and in the way of Margem, your works with the words on the simple words on photographs are just summarized, and I saw I saw the same with these Amazonia for plantada. It was okay. Human being were doing it, really. So what was it? And it was surprising in a way, of course. Elena, which probably you can describe what you are, not in a technical way, but you go into to make the idea technical form for with the roots, with the very interesting way of the what's dawn? And yeah, so when I saw first here and the exhibition opening, when I saw, wow, it's a rocket or what? And I see your video because this coming up with the drone video, which was coming up from the ground up to the on the look on the view, large view on the rainforest. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, indeed, the entire construction of this almost 3-meter high tree, I somehow had it since I was in November over there in Brazil. I had the, let's say, idea, vision of making a sculpture, my first sculpture, and I took this tree because it also has its own myth. It's called the walking tree, and the people believe it does walk because it kind of like, it has special qualities. When I was in the Amazon, I don't know special, but it has this particularity that it grows, not every day, but it can grow up to 3 centimeters per day in better conditions. Let's say where there's more source of water, where there's better light. So this means also that it has let's say a mobility, and this is botanical people. Anderson, who was very great, important influence, I must say, in the La Verde residency, even though that I first encountered the tree in Correlación Amazonica, where we were in Iquitos, but back then in La Verde I met this amazing botanical who explained me everything about the tree, and somehow I kind of like had a source of, I fell in love with the tree, so I had to build it. And it has to move, because it has all this also, let's say, what was the word? I use cosmovision because it's the word that I use in Spanish. It's more or less the same, ancestralidad. Ancestralidad. Yeah. It has a myth, it has a story. And for me it was also a way to bridge in between this and put the importance of the knowledge of the people who were there before the colonies, the people who were there before this botanical came and decided this is called like this and this plant has this name. I mean, the plant name is Socratea exorrhiza. Socratea from Socrates. Socrates in the Amazonia, what does it have to do with? I mean, nothing. But yes, that's why. Oh, I'm seeing now that unfortunately, it's time's over in the call from Margem, and perhaps it's not hearing this, sadly. I think, yes, we are maybe about to finish because of this time that the internet gives us, and it's very limited. So if Margem will hear this eventually, thanks very much for being here. Very, very sorry. Yeah. And then, yes, I think we should sum up a bit, and then we can continue here with some drinks with all the people who came. Thank you very much for coming. If more questions you will have, for sure, after we finish the live. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, David, and everybody who, was here to talk and know a bit more of different perspective of the Amazonias. Yeah, thank you very much.